The Georgia sun beat down relentlessly on the small town of Oakhaven, its heat radiating off the freshly turned earth of the cemetery. The air was thick with the cloying sweetness of funeral lilies and the heavy silence of collective grief. Brigadier General Elias Vance, a titan of military strategy and a man revered for his unwavering integrity, was being laid to rest. His passing had sent ripples of sorrow through the military ranks and the local community alike. Veterans, their chests adorned with medals that spoke volumes of battles fought and sacrifices made, stood at attention, their weathered faces etched with a profound sadness. Active duty personnel, their uniforms impeccable, formed a stoic honor guard, a silent testament to the respect General Vance had commanded. Oakhaven, usually a picture of idyllic Southern tranquility, was draped in an uncharacteristic solemnity, the flags lining Main Street lowered to half-mast. Among the local law enforcement officers present was Dale Jenkins, a patrolman known within the precinct for his abrasive demeanor and a reputation that preceded him like a dark cloud. Some whispered of his quick temper, others of his thinly veiled prejudices, but his position within the local force had remained unchallenged, a silent endorsement of a status quo that many quietly tolerated. Jenkins stood apart slightly, his posture rigid, his hand instinctively resting on the butt of his holstered Glock. His gaze, sharp and unsettling, scanned the diverse assembly of mourners, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. As the mournful strains of taps began to drift across the hallowed grounds, a profound hush descended upon the cemetery. General Vance's widow, Sarah, a woman of remarkable fortitude who had been the general's steadfast partner through decades of service and sacrifice, stood with her children, their faces pale and drawn with sorrow. Beside them stood Major Marcus Jones, General Vance's trusted aide-de-camp. Major Jones, a decorated officer with a distinguished service record of his own, was a man of quiet dignity and unwavering loyalty. His presence was a testament to the deep bond he had shared with the general. A black man of imposing stature and quiet strength, he stood tall and resolute, his salute a picture of unwavering respect. It was during this sacred moment, a confluence of grief, remembrance, and profound respect for a fallen hero, that Officer Dale Jenkins committed an act so jarring, so utterly devoid of justification, that would shatter the solemnity of the occasion and ignite a firestorm of controversy. His gaze, fixed with an inexplicable intensity on Major Jones, hardened. A vein throbbed visibly in Jenkins' temple. Then, with a sudden, jarring movement that seemed to rip through the quietude, he drew his service weapon. The sharp click of the safety being disengaged echoed ominously in the still air. The collective gasp rippled through the stunned mourners. Heads swiveled in disbelief and dawning horror as Jenkins, his face contorted by a raw, undisguised animosity, leveled his pistol directly at the chest of Major Marcus Jones, a fellow officer, a decorated member of the United States military, offering his final respects to his fallen commander. Time seemed to warp and stretch. The poignant notes of the bugle hung, suspended in the air, the melody momentarily eclipsed by the sheer audacity and blatant racism of Jenkins' action. Major Jones remained frozen, his salute unwavering, his dark eyes locking with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and an unyielding resolve on the face of the man pointing a gun at him. The implicit threat hung heavy in the air, a toxic cloud of prejudice defiling the sanctity of the moment. Several high-ranking officers, their minds reeling at the unfolding nightmare, reacted instantly. Colonel Davies, a man who had served alongside General Vance for over 20 years and witnessed countless acts of bravery, bellowed a command that cut through the stunned silence like a knife. "Jenkins, what in God's name do you think you're doing? Stand down immediately." Two other local officers, their faces ashen with disbelief and a dawning sense of the gravity of the situation, cautiously approached Jenkins, their hands hovering near their own sidearms, their eyes darting nervously between Jenkins and the stunned military personnel. The air crackled with a palpable tension, thick with the potential for violence. Slowly, his face a mask of simmering rage, Jenkins lowered his weapon. The raw fury in his eyes did not abate, but the immediate danger was diffused. He was swiftly disarmed and taken into custody, the bewildered and horrified gazes of the assembled mourners following his every step as he was led away. The aftermath was immediate and explosive. News of the desecration of General Vance's funeral, the blatant act of racial discrimination directed at a decorated officer in uniform, spread like wildfire through news outlets and social media, igniting a furious debate and a wave of national outrage. The sheer audacity of the act, the profound disrespect shown at such a solemn occasion, resonated deeply, touching a raw nerve in a nation grappling with its own history of racial injustice. An immediate and thorough investigation was launched, spearheaded by both the local authorities and the military police. The evidence was irrefutable. Dozens of eyewitnesses, including numerous high-ranking military officials, had seen Jenkins point his weapon directly at Major Jones. There was no ambiguity, no room for misinterpretation or denial. Video footage from bystanders further corroborated the accounts, painting a damning picture of Jenkins' hateful act. The trial that followed became a focal point for national discourse on race, prejudice, and accountability. The prosecution presented a meticulously constructed and damning case, emphasizing the gravity of Jenkins' actions, the profound disrespect shown to General Vance's memory and Major Jones' distinguished service, and the chilling implications of a law enforcement officer wielding his authority with such blatant racial animus. They argued persuasively that Jenkins' actions were not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a visceral manifestation of deeply ingrained racial hatred, a dangerous abuse of power that demanded the severest consequences. The defense team struggled to mount a credible counternarrative. Their attempts to portray Jenkins as a man suffering from temporary stress and a momentary lapse in reason fell flat against the overwhelming weight of the evidence and the sheer brazenness of his conduct. Major Jones, a picture of quiet strength and unwavering dignity, delivered a powerful and moving testimony, recounting the shock, disbelief, and profound sense of violation he felt at being targeted with such blatant hatred during a moment of profound personal and national mourning. His composure and articulate recounting of the events resonated deeply with the jury and the nation. The jury deliberated for what seemed like an eternity, the weight of their decision hanging heavy in the air. Finally, after days of intense deliberation, they returned their verdict, guilty on all counts, including aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and federal hate crime charges. The verdict sent a clear and resounding message that such acts of racial violence and intimidation would not be tolerated. The sentencing hearing was a somber and emotionally charged affair. The judge, delivering a powerful and unequivocal condemnation of Jenkins' actions, underscored the profound damage inflicted by his blatant racism, not only on Major Jones, but also on the integrity of the law enforcement profession and the fundamental principles of equality and justice. The judge emphasized the particular gravity of the offense, given the context of a military funeral and the disrespect shown to a fallen hero, in a landmark decision that reverberated across the nation, sending a powerful message about the zero tolerance for racial discrimination, particularly against those who serve and protect the country. Officer Dale Jenkins was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was met with a mixture of relief and grim satisfaction, a recognition that while justice had been served, the underlying issues of prejudice and hate remained a challenge. The courtroom remained hushed as the sentence was read, the finality of the judgment hanging heavy in the air. For Major Marcus Jones, it was a measure of justice, a validation of the dignity and resilience he had displayed in the face of such blatant hatred. For the memory of Brigadier General Elias Vance, it was a testament that the values he had dedicated his life to upholding would not be overshadowed by the bigotry of one man. The incident in Oakhaven served as a stark and unsettling reminder of the insidious nature of racism and the constant vigilance required to combat it. It ignited difficult but necessary conversations within law enforcement agencies, military institutions, and communities across the nation, prompting renewed commitments to address systemic prejudice and ensure true equality for all. The shadow of prejudice cast by Jenkins' actions served only to highlight the enduring light of duty, honor, and the unwavering commitment of those who serve their nation with dignity and pride, regardless of their race or background. The life sentence handed down to Dale Jenkins stood as a stark and unequivocal warning that such egregious acts of discrimination would not be tolerated, and that the principles of equality and justice, though constantly tested, would ultimately prevail.